Hello, and welcome to Friday Finds with Rob Meyer-Kukan.
Hello, and thank you once again for joining me for Friday Finds. I'm Rob Meyer-Kukan of the Healthy Musician Institute in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I would like to introduce to you my friend Sherry Coffman from Arlington, Texas. Hi, Sherry, how are you?
Hey, Rob.
It's good to see you. I'm
Yeah,
jealous of the birds chirping in the background.
Oh, can you hear them? Yeah, I'm on my patio, so I
It's
spend as much
beautiful.
time out here as I can.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, in Michigan, we're still a little bit of snow, but it's not dampening our spirits, that's for sure.
That's great.
So we are here today to talk a little bit about theta healing. But before we talk about that, would you give us a little bit of your background, introduce us to you, tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, I am actually a former high school teacher. And in my last few years of teaching, actually my last 15 years of teaching, I taught high school French. And I taught everything from French 1 through AP 5th year French. And that was great. But in the last couple of years, I started just feeling called towards something else, had a yearning to do something else. And having been a teacher, I was always in the business of helping people be everything that they could be. That was always my thought in the classroom, is no matter what it is I'm teaching you, I'm here to help you expand in every way that you can possible. So I was at a Reiki share one day because I'm a Reiki master, practitioner, teacher, as well as a DNA Theta healing practitioner, teacher now. At a Reiki share, I was talking about how after I had worked on someone on the table that I was feeling this drainage in my throat. It was confusing me because I was fine when I got there. And one of the other masters turned and looked at me and said, "Well, your sinuses are draining." And I said, "How do you know my sinuses are draining?" And she said, "I can see them." And I said, "What do you mean you can see my sinuses?" And she said, "DNA Theta healing." And I said, "I got to get me some of that." So I did. When she became certified to teach, I started taking classes with her. And so now I do Reiki, I do DNA Theta healing. I also do the aroma freedom technique that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with clients privately. I do events, and then I teach and certify people in all three of those. And I have to say, I loved classroom teaching. I loved French, but this has been beyond anything I could have imagined for helping people. The ripple effect, you know, when one person heals, the ripple effect from that healing in their life is just so amazing. It's just such a fabulous thing to be part of that.
That's awesome. That's a wonderful, beautiful, true calling, which is it's wonderful about the work that we do. So.
It is. And I know you know.
Yeah. Sherry mentioned AFT, the Aroma Freedom Technique, and I have a video about that. I will put a link about finding more information about that in the description, as well as some links that we'll talk about coming up about Sherry's work as a theta healer and whatnot. But tell us, what is theta healing? What is the process? How does it work?
Okay, yeah. Theta healing is an energy healing modality that was kind of brought to the planet by a woman named Bianna Steibel a little over 20 years ago. And so as a theta healer, I take my consciousness into a theta brainwave spontaneously. Anyone can be trained to do this, okay? There's not really anything special about me in that sense. And the theta brainwave is the one that we're in when we're dreaming, that rapid eye movement brainwave. It's the second lowest brainwave just above delta, which is the deep sleep. That's that brainwave where the cats are when they're just laying and you can pick them up and move them, and you know they don't even know you're moving them. So I take my consciousness to a theta brainwave, and then I can take my consciousness into the energy of the client. I can view the inside of the body. I can tap into emotions and thoughts that they're feeling. And the thing about theta healing, I think, that makes it so powerful is we can help clients identify subconscious beliefs that they're holding in their energy system. And as a theta healer, what I've been trained and I believe is that when a thought repeats over and over, it becomes a belief. Once that thought has gotten to the belief level, then our lives manifest from that. And so as a theta healer, I'm helping people to identify the subconscious beliefs they have that are manifesting to bring things to their life that they would rather not see. And we pull the programs for that subconscious belief, and then we download programs for better beliefs. And it literally rewires the neurons in the brain. So it breaks those pathways between neurons for the unserving beliefs, and then rewires those neurons for better serving beliefs, so that we can manifest what we truly want that serves us.
Wow. That's super profound.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, I have to say, having received it myself and then watching what goes on with my clients and students. Yeah, I love it.
That's pretty amazing. So tell me, in a typical session with a client, how does a session work with a client? Are you in person? Do you do it remotely?
Okay, well, everything that I do can be done remotely. And to be honest, sometimes I have had quicker shifts with people just working by phone going into the Theta session. And I think it must just be because we're both so focused on just that one thing. We're focused on the voice and the conversation. But whether I'm doing the session remotely by phone, by Skype, Zoom, or in person, generally the first thing I do is I just talk to the client. I find out what it is, if they've got a particular issue they want to work on. While I'm listening to them talk, I'm taking notes. And as I'm writing what I'm hearing from them, then I start hearing messages from creative source. I start seeing patterns in what they're saying. And then what we do is we're looking to find a top belief that they're holding. Now, it's still subconscious, but something that's kind of coming to the surface from the subconscious through what they're saying. And then we use muscle testing to see if that belief is indeed there, or lacking, if that's, what is unserving. And then after we've got the top belief we're going to work with, I take my clients through a guided meditation to guide them into a Theta brainwave. If they're with me in person, I'll generally use an essential oil, or if we're doing it by distance, I will say, do you have this oil? Let's use that. And then after we've done the guided meditation, during that process, I will often get visions of something that relates to whatever the issue is. I will see them in childhood, or I'll see something that's a metaphor that gives me more information. If I go in to scan the body, then I'm looking at the inside of the body. I can see the body as it is anatomically, or because I am such a metaphorical person, the creator works with me with metaphors. So I'll be shown metaphors inside the body that indicate beliefs that are being held. For example, one time I saw a woman's heart that, instead of looking like a regular human heart, looked like a little red rubber ball, and it had all these clockwork gears around it. And it was barely pumping, and these clockwork gears were pushing on it. And I was given the message from that she could hardly let life force move through her body, because she was always moving in time to serve other people's needs. And she wasn't letting her own energy come forth. And it was like the old Timex commercial, keeps on, takes a licking and keeps on ticking. That was kind of the message I was getting. She was depleting herself for others. And so I'll get those kind of messages when we come out of the meditation. We do the muscle testing, and then we go through what we call a digging process. And it's really just a conversation. We're talking about that top belief, and what we're doing is we're looking to get below the layers of that, deep into the subconscious, to what we call the bottom belief. And you think of the old game Jenga, where you stack the little wooden things, and the goal of that game is to pull a piece out and not have it topple. With Theta healing, what we're trying to do is get to the bottommost belief, the deepest one possible, pull that one on the bottom so that that whole tower collapses. Because in between the top belief and the one that we identify as what we call the bottom belief, there can be thousands of subconscious beliefs in between there. And say, for example, you have a belief. I was working with a client one time who had the belief that women are not attracted to intelligent men. And this was during the chat session, we'll call it. And he said that, and I stopped, and I looked at him, and I was like, excuse me, I'm attracted to intelligent men. What? And he stopped, and he looked at me, and he was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. So we used that as his top belief after muscle testing. And what we got down to as his bottom belief is that only stupid people are in committed relationships. Now, this was interesting, because what he was finding was the only kind of women he was attracting weren't meeting his need for intellectual stimulation. The intelligent women that he was attracted to didn't seem to be attracted to him. When we worked to shift that belief, within months, He was in a relationship. This was years ago. They now live together. So
Wow.
that's what I love about theta healing. It's eliminating those limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves. And one of the things that's fascinating, and I know you're maybe going to move on and ask me about this, but I'll tell you now, one of the things fascinating about theta healing is it works on the philosophy or the theory of epigenetics that science has now brought forth, and they're proving through research that we don't inherit just our body frame or, the shape of our nose. We inherit beliefs from our ancestors through our DNA. So even if our life experience has not caused us to have a belief at the subconscious level that's unserving, we could have that inherited from our great-great-grandmother, And so as we clear these things out, not only does it make our life better, but then if we have children, we don't pass that belief on through the DNA.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of times muscle testing. So can you tell us a little bit about what muscle testing is and how you use it for a theta healing session?
There are multiple ways you can muscle test, and a lot of people are familiar with it. One of the ways that we muscle test is we use our fingers, and I usually ask people to use their ring finger and their thumb because that's weaker. And you try to separate the fingers, and you get like a baseline on yes and no. So generally, most people, if they're hydrated, you can't pull their fingers apart when they say yes. But when they say no, you'll be able to pull the fingers separated. You can muscle test yourself by putting your fingers together like this and pulling your finger through. So yes, no, yes, no. Now, I don't like to use that form of muscle testing because clients will sometimes decide, no, I don't resent my mother, and the fingers will pop wide open because they're ashamed of that thought. So the kind of muscle testing I usually use is either with the arm extended, where you can put pressure on it and the arm will hold strong for a yes and it will go down for a no. Or my favorite form of muscle testing is the standing muscle testing, where the body is like a natural pendulum. So generally what you do is you face north, you just close your eyes, you tell your body to relax, you say yes out loud, and your body will fall forward for a yes and fall back for a no. And I actually have a YouTube video that's connected to my website that shows you how to do that if anybody wants to do that in the future. You can muscle test for anything that has a yes-no answer. And I go to the grocery store and I'll pick up a melon. Is this melon ready to eat? Or I'll pick up a supplement. Is this supplement for my highest and best right now? And it's kind of fascinating. And you can do that subtly, but who cares if someone sees you leaning forward or backwards at Sprouts, If they come over and ask you what you're doing, maybe you get a new client, so.
There's your new form of marketing.
That's right. That's right. Just run around at Sprouts and Whole Foods and all those places.
It's market research is what it is.
That's right. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And I'll make sure that a link to that video about how to do muscle testing is also included in the description below, so that people will have that available to them. So a lot of the people who watch the videos that I put out are performing artists or musicians. So what kind of applications are there for this type of work for performers or for musicians?
Well, when I think about performing, it always makes me think of self-expression. And if we were going to talk in terms of chakras, that would be the throat and the sacral chakra to me, because the sacral chakra is where all our creative energy comes from. And then the throat chakra is where all that expression comes from. And one of the interesting things that happened for me personally, I am not a performer, right? But everyone sings in church, and everyone sings in the shower and with the radio in the car. One of the things I noticed happened to me when I started going through the theta healing process for myself and receiving the healing is that my range was wider. So my vocal range is probably double what it used to be. And I can feel the difference in the relaxing in my throat, because when we're holding resentments or when our self-expression has been suppressed in some way. So I think about that childhood expression that was used a lot when I was a little girl. Children are meant to be seen and not heard. Well, when you hear that enough, even though it's not your own thought, we hear these memes that are repeated in our lifetime over and over, it creates a subconscious belief. So if you've got that you heard as a child like I did, why would you be able to stretch your voice? Why would you would have that belief that you're meant not to be heard? Or you might have a belief that you're not meant to be seen. And I can't think of anything worse for a performing artist than to have a subconscious belief like that. So I would say, if you're a performing artist and you're watching this, get up and muscle test yourself. See if you've got that. Work with Rob, with AFT can help with that, but Theta healing certainly can identify that. And then just things like self-doubt. Musicians have a lot. You and I have talked about performance anxiety. If you're composing yourself, and you've got that belief that you're not meant to be heard, or you've got beliefs about your abilities to create and bring forth things of value, those kinds of things really are going to impact musicians in particular, or artists of any type.
Right. Yeah, those are all, I'm ticking boxes for myself. And we
get ready to muscle test.
Right. we talk about this a lot. I talk about this a lot with a lot of musicians about the whole idea of imposter syndrome and just not feeling like like you have something that is worthy of being shared with others because somebody else knows more or knows better. It's
right.
What a wonderful tool to add to the box of things to help with your expression and your creativity.
And you don't have to be an artist to have issues with bringing yourself forth in your personal expression, because it's going to impact relationships as well. If you can't express who you truly are authentically, you're going to attract to you people that aren't really going to resonate with your frequency. And that really is my mission. I mean, when I started this work and I thought about why am I doing this, my mission is to help people raise their personal frequencies, whether that's one-on-one or in a group. Because when one person's frequency rises, we all rise because we're all connected, and it's a way of helping everyone while helping one person is the way I look at it. So.
Very cool. So if someone were to come to you for a session, how does that work? Is it something that they need to see you for multiple times or get a tune-up on later? How does that relationship work with them as you and the client?
Well, generally, we have thousands of subconscious beliefs that drive us because, like I said, we inherit them from our ancestors. Generally, when I work with someone the first time, I'll have a sense of how many sessions I feel like it may take to get beyond the particular barrier. I mean, depending on a situation, things can shift in 15 minutes and they're shifted permanently. I've worked with people at fairs who, in a 15-minute session, they open their eyes and I say, you need to go into the restroom and look at your face. They look like they've been to the spa for a week. But generally, it isn't something that you're going to want to do just one session. And so I have, session collections that I offer, but at the bare minimum, I would say most people are going to need at least 3 sessions to get, a big impact. But just one session can clear something up. Resentment is a big issue for people. And resentment actually helps you hold weight in your body. And resentment also attracts fungus. So, it just depends on what we're working on. But I would say, yes. Yeah, I think of theta healing more like what I would say with massage. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to go once and go, okay, I'm done with that. Check that off my list for the rest of my life. But generally people come for several sessions and then they'll feel like they've advanced to a new level and then, come back later when they feel like there's something else that they want to work on.
Neat. That's really cool. So if someone is in the North Texas area and would like to get in touch with you to have a service, how would they contact you?
Well, they can call me at 817-468-1691. They can contact me through my website, which is radiantmoonreiki.com, or they can email me at kaufmansherry@gmail.com. And like I said, I do distance sessions. I've worked with people in Australia. I've worked with people in Ohio. I've worked with people in Michigan, you know, by phone, by Zoom. Energy does not have barriers to it. You know, energy work is energy work. And so as long as we can have a conversation, they don't even have to be able to see me. I don't have to be able to see them. We can do the work. But I do work here in Arlington for people in North Texas.
Very cool. And I asked you about your contact stuff. I should have muscle tested that one. So I like to ask my guests to give some words of wisdom, the best piece of advice that you've ever been given. And it can be related to what we're talking about or completely unrelated. It can be serious or it can be silly. So would you share with us some words of wisdom?
Yeah. I think that one of the best things anyone ever communicated to me was at the time when I was looking at stepping away from teaching and into this business. And that was a huge transition for me because I was young to be retiring from teaching. People were saying, you're crazy, you're not going to get as big a retirement check. And one of my mentors named Cynthia Ocelli said this to me. She said, don't run away from something you don't want. Run towards something you do want. And I feel like so many of us are making changes. It's so common now for people to reinvent themselves in midlife, or, you know, jobs go away and you're forced to do that whether you want to or not. But when you're making that kind of move, don't just look at what you don't like in your life and say, okay, I'm just going to figure out how to get rid of that. You know, that'd be like emptying your closet of clothes and no plan to go buy new clothes. So that's one of the things that I feel like Theta Healing does, is when it pulls the programs that are unserving, then new programs are always downloaded to take that place, because nature doesn't like a vacuum. But that advice was so meaningful to me, because it was almost like it gave me permission to leave where I was, because I thought, I'm not leaving teaching because I hate it. I'm leaving teaching because I'm moving towards something else that my heart is calling me to. And I just think that's the best advice in that kind of situation. If you're looking at a change, make sure, first of all, that you're not leaving where you are just because you don't like it. Get complete with that, because wherever you go, there you are. And whatever you've got in this situation, if you don't clean it up, you're going to take it with you into the next situation.
Those are wonderful words. Thank you for sharing them with us.
You're welcome.
Well, I will make sure that all of the information about how to get a hold of Sherry or to learn more about the work that she does is in the description below. If you're watching on social media, it'll be the very first comment in the news feed here. If you have enjoyed this video, give it the thumbs up. Do me a favor, click that subscribe button so that you are subscribed to my channel. If you've had a Theta Healing session and if you have enjoyed incorporating that into your life, make a comment below. Tell us about your experience. We'd love to hear about the wonderful things that you have experienced through Theta Healing. And be sure to tune back in next week for another episode of Friday Finds. If you're watching on Friday, have a great weekend. If you're watching on another day, have an awesome week. And as always, be happy, be healthy, and take care. Thank you, Sherry, for being my guest today.
Thanks. It was fun.
We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.